Okay, yeah, so I took over this really great program from Hans Christian. And what I'm going to do is to talk about what is Proclama, how we're doing it, and why we do this way. Christian mentioned that there is some good things about using students, and one of the things is that in Denmark, I think that when somebody from outside comes in and says that they have merit to talk about these things, some students become very skeptical, actually, where the shoulders lowers when it is their study mates who are just talking about these things. And a lot of the feedback that we got is actually that they thought the students were so brave that they were speaking openly about these things, and it didn't just encourage the students attending, but also the students who are giving the talks. So that's a very interesting thing, I think, and it might work for some of you as well. So what we do is that we do this 1 year, 1 talk. And we have 3 to 5 meetings, and then 1 weekend. And the reason why we do this is also because we believe that it is important that they really build a connection with each other, so we use a lot of time on doing these talks. Also because we have this, the format is masterclass, peer reviewing, and continuous feedback. And to give people feedback and also to receive it, it's good that you feel connected with the people who are giving the feedback, and also give a sense that I'm not just doing this talk myself, actually we're doing this together, and that has been really, really good. Yeah, and also this, that their academic life, their Christian life, and their social life and student life comes together. So that is also a very important part of this. And what we do is actually we focus a lot on the academic part. The students are not professionals, they are not professors, but they can look into something in their field and be really good to talk about that point, even though they're not professors. So that's a very important part in the way we do it. And then also they are relatable and they're up to date with their fellow students, and I will say a little bit about that later on. Yeah. Why undergraduates? Well, they are relatable, and they know what the struggles are of being young. And if they stay in academia, sometimes we also look for people who are really gifted and talented academics. And if we do that already now, when they're undergraduates, they might be comfortable doing talks later. So we hope that will happen. And they also know what's trendy and popular. Who am I looking for? Well, sometimes they come to me and say they want to do this, but often it's also me who try to encourage them. And this is some of the things that I'm looking in these people. They might not be all of these things, and then we might work on some of the things. And the first thing I want to say is it's really, really good if they spend a lot of time with their fellow students. Because then they already love them and they care about what their needs and how they might connect with Christianity in some way, and how their field of study and their lives could connect. Yeah, and then also I look for academic talents or nerds. Yeah, it's a good thing to be a good nerd. And then also some of the speakers are also just like bursting out evangelists that just need a little bit of help to communicate and so on. And then creative minds. We have some really interesting and like odd talks in Denmark. For example, one that was talking about clothes, the history of clothes, to talk about how we identify with each other and how that forms our identity, and then moving forward to talk about the gospel. Yeah. So this is some of the questions that I'm asking them. When I ask them, I don't ask them to do a talk on the 3 things. What is it? Persuasion? No, what is the first one? identification, persuasion, and invitation. I actually do this first. I ask them, why is this important to you and to others? What do you want to say and how do you want to say it? And how do you want to present it in order to make it interesting? That's how we form the talk in the beginning, and then we're going to give feedback with the 3 others later. It's also because it can be some of them are really struggling to do this, so it can be too much to start with those words, but this is a way to build it up, and then we can challenge them on the other things later. So what we focus on that I want them to think about is their field of study, their faith, and their life experiences. And they will model it very differently according to the personality, but that is some of the things that I'm trying to work. So for example, as a question I would ask is, what has been the most interesting thing you have discovered in your field of study? And and to connect that with their faith. And then also to, as you can see, they have to figure out what is important and what is more just interesting and what is your darling. So you also, sometimes you want to use a lot of quotes from some very clever people, but sometimes you just have to say it in order to make it sharp. And then also to make it relatable, find the junctions between the subject, your life, and your friends' lives. This is also something we do, how to start. We want to make them, because often we say, I'm this person and I have a dog, and all those kind of also interesting things to say about yourself, but we just want to make them get to the point right away. And we also don't, when it is the students, we don't use time on merits and uninteresting things about yourself. Get to the point. And often we use visuals, gadgets and gimmicks, or maybe a quote to do this. And then also sometimes you get to, everybody thinks that they need to do a PowerPoint, but sometimes we actually should not do PowerPoints. And I think we have some very good examples on this also here at Foyer. And then we also work with modes of persuasion. So they learn to identify what they're doing, but actually also they are also encouraged to then do it actually in the style that they're comfortable with. And then it comes to the feedback, and this is how we give feedback. And we do this a bit later on in the process because they might not be comfortable with talking about invitation in the beginning, but we later on it will be okay. So the gift of this is that, of course, I think it works really well at the lunch bars, but also it really helps the students love their field of study, really engage with it. And we also really encourage them to really spend time and love their fellow students, also to be really interested in their questions, and also sometimes, I'm doing this talk, what do you think about that? To talk with their fellow students about that. And then also to be more comfortable in proclaiming the gospel. And we've just got so great feedback from the participants, because when the first time you do this talk and then somebody comes up and says, this was so great, thank you so much for doing this, it's just so encouraging, and many of the students come back next year and do another talk. So that's really great. I don't think I have more time now.